Okay, so welcome everyone who's here. This is officially the public hearing of the Human Services Subcommittee of the Advisory Committee on the fiscal year 27 budget of the Veterans Services Department. And it will be followed by a public meeting on this. I'm Susan Granoff, chair of the subcommittee, and we have almost everyone here from our subcommittee, and Donnell may be arriving shortly after the meeting starts. I can go around and just say everyone's name for the record, and you could wave in case for future views of this video. So I'm David Mark Goldstein, okay, Alec Lebovitz, Perry Grossman,
hello,
and Fran Perler. And the only person currently missing is Donnell O'Neill. And Alec is going to be writing the report as he did last year. And so we're also very happy that Bill McGroarty is here, and Charlie Young of the 6th floor, the Assistant Director of Finance, Assistant Town Administrator for Finance.
yes, thanks, Susan. Sorry, and my video is not working for some reason. I don't know why, but I am here, so.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so without further ado, Bill, do you have any introductory remarks that you'd like to make? We do have to leave by 7 p.m. at the latest.
So, trusting that you can keep the meeting casual and that I might be able to weigh in as you sort of dig into some issues.
Yes, I'm not going to.
But let me say this. So I'm Neil Gordon. For the record, I'm a Precinct 1 town meeting member. I'm a member of the advisory committee, and I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm a member of the Brookline VFW. We know we have budget challenges. But as I read Chaz's response in his email, which was clearly not definitive, but that should an override fail, well, we'll sort of have to look at it and may have to readdress some of the job duties and responsibilities, and maybe there'd be some reorganization, and read between those lines suggests to me that there's a lack of budget appreciation and organizational appreciation for what the veteran service officer does and how important it is. And I know I had very nice things to say about Bill McGroarty for as long as I've been on the advisory committee and as long as I've been participating, but that position is going to turn over, and hopefully there'll be a new veteran service officer, and Bill can retire if he wants to, although he might reapply for the no. Right. And so let's talk about, if we talk about the position, right, this is not casual and not something that can be sort of be handed off. And as wonderful as Claudia has been and will be, she is the admin. She's not the VSO, and she doesn't, know how to work the magic of qualifying veterans for disability, getting them into the VA system, getting appointments when there aren't any, getting them rides when there's no transportation available. I'll say this last comment, and I'll weigh in it if you let me later. Veteran suicide is an epidemic, not in Brookline.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I just want to double check. Has all of our subcommittee members read the email that I received from Chaz. Okay, so we all know what it says. Yeah, one question that I had for Bill, it seems clear that no decision will be made whether or not to post that position until after the town election. Uh,
I
is
haven't
this the
seen the
first
email from Chaz, so I'm a little bit out of the loop. It wasn't in
Okay, I
my,
did send you a copy of
I
it.
didn't see it.
It's brief, but
Want to
I
read it?
actually printed it out, and I think it's worth. It was just in response to some questions that I asked him. At this, the first response, the first question response, at this juncture, this is Chaz, given the uncertainty surrounding a potential override and the desire to evaluate how the work Bill did can be provided going forward, we have not yet posted for his position. Bill will be providing assistance on a contractual basis during this transition period. So it's one point, it sounds like no decision will be made whether or not to post anything until after the voters have spoken about the override. In question 3, his response. So what I had asked him, does the proposed budget salary line item take into account this key change? And he says, yes, to the extent that the position salary is anticipated to reset to the bottom step of the pay scale for its grade, but otherwise no. We anticipate there will be likely a need for that position, but its roles, responsibilities, and reporting structure may all change. For example, we may broaden its responsibilities as part of our expansion of the health department's human services mission. If the select board or advisory committee find other proposed no override scenario cuts unpalatable, this position may wind up being cut instead, though that certainly would not be our first choice. Until we have overall clarity in the budget, we are maintaining the status quo. Okay, so my first question to Bill is, now that you know what the thinking is, you indicated in your responses to our question that you are currently under this contractual situation, putting in a 7.5 hour, 1 day a week appearance at the town office, but you are also doing approximately 1 to 3 hours of work responding to messages, et cetera, from your home. So a total of 8.5 to 10.5 hours per week. Is this something that you could maintain through May or June?
I'd prefer not to, honestly. But on the other hand, I don't want my veterans to fall. If there's I don't want it to be a gap in services and someone fall through the cracks. So
is there anyone currently on staff that could possibly step in and do what you do?
No.
No.
I'm not being self-important. It's just
no. I mean,
you work, Claudia knows the veteran system really well, and she's certainly brighter than I am, but being I explained this to the health director. She can do the 115 claims pretty much on her own. I do advise her, but she can put all that together, and she's really good at it, and she tracks it. She does a great job. What I do a lot mostly is the VA claims. And the reason is that because of, my military experience, and because I've been doing this for 30 plus years, I understand pretty much what every veteran's military experience is from World War II to yesterday. And I can articulate that in a way that when we're filing a claim for disability, that the VA evaluator, who's usually a failed lawyer, can figure this out also. And if you don't have that level of experience, and I'll give you an example. I had one kid come in who was applying for PTSD because he's suffering from really severe stress. And he was the chief sonar operator on a nuclear submarine that was operating in Soviet waters or Russian waters. And literally, he's 22 years old, and he is the eyes and ears of that ship. And the only people that are situationally aware in a combat environment are that young man and the captain who's standing over his shoulder, and he's telling him what's out there. And everybody else in that ship is blind except for those two people. That's an awful lot of stress. The evaluator at the VA didn't understand that, and that's where I had to put that in, because I denied him the first time, to explain that in a way that that evaluator could understand why there was a stressor and how that links to a service connection. And unless you've had that kind of experience, you can't do that. Neil said we haven't had any suicides. Because of my military experience, and I'm very self-effacing about having PTSD and a TBI, which is also why I'm trying to retire. You know, I'm able to talk to young men and women who are very proud, who don't want to seek help, and get them the help they need. And those are things you just can't let someone else walk into. It has to be someone with a certain level of experience to do that. Doesn't have
So
to be
for,
me, but it has to be someone with a certain level of experience. Even Claudia can't do that stuff.
right. So for example, if someone from the health department, a social worker, wouldn't necessarily have that kind of familiarity or understanding of the situation unless they had already, you know, had some sort of military background, do you think?
VA counselors that don't have military experience have asked me to sit in on some of their events because they need that piece of experience to help the veteran. So you could put a social worker in there, and I'm sure they have good heart and will do a great thing. But you really want someone that has some experience and can relate to the young men and women coming back.
Right.
Otherwise, they're just a suit. They don't care.
Have you mentioned you haven't been asked to write a job description of what you do?
I've offered to. I haven't been asked to yet, but I've offered to.
Okay.
Job description, because I figure no one knows my job better than I do, and it hasn't been updated in more than 20 years.
So how long have you been with Brookline?
21 years.
Okay.
32 years total service, 21 years in Brookline.
Okay. If there are, I'm going to keep the so-called public hearing open, but I think we could start discussing things, and we can bring in Neil periodically should he wish to add anything. What comments or questions do other people have about this? Donnell, your hand is raised.
Thank you, Susan. First of all, Bill, I love you. You've been awesome to my family personally. You already know, like, I love you. It's gonna be hard. I mean, your shoes don't fill. We already know that. They should have already asked you to write a job description of what you do. I mean, because if I'm not mistaken, we voted no. The town voted no on the last override. Am I right or am I wrong? Did we vote no? So I refresh my memory.
Town voted yes for the last override.
They voted yes. Okay,
Yep.
I wasn't sure.
That was in 2023. Yep. That's okay to know.
Thank you. That's what I need to know. Okay, so if we're banking on, so what if the town does not vote for this override, right? How long would your contract have to go on until you write a job description of what we really need, you know?
I don't have a contract. They asked me to come in. I'm working on, I believe, a 1099 now.
Okay.
And I'm just reporting my hours in. But what I'm doing is basically this. I come in, I assist Claudia with any, issues she has with the 115 benefits. And I try to bring in one or two veterans that are having issues with the VA benefits that I can help. And that's really where I'm trying to fill in thing. I'm responding to the emails and the phone calls so I can get that piece worked out for the one day end.
Last thing, Susan, and that'll be it. Like you said, you're willing to do a job description, for your position. I mean, that's on record now that we're aware of it. can someone let that happen? Charlie, can you let that happen? Because I mean, Bill's been doing this a long time. He has made a lot of connections to a lot of veterans in this town and their families. So and it sucks that you're leaving. I know you got to do what you got to do, but we're all gonna miss you. We're all gonna miss you. It's gonna
I'm gonna
feel
miss you
weird.
guys too.
It's gonna feel weird without you here. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Charlie, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thanks, Susan. And again, sorry that my camera isn't working. So
That's
would
fine.
love to do what I can to sort of address this question. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for sending those questions in advance to Chaz so that he could take a swing at them instead of bringing them up right to me. Because
No, that was
I
the
may
idea.
I
Yes.
may not have had the right answers, and I think Chaz worded it pretty well, but I do think he left this a measure of uncertainty here in what's going to happen. So a couple of things. One, Donnell, I think I don't have any power over how quickly this gets moved along, but I will tell you, I don't think that Chaz has, like an indefinite status for the vacancy of this position. I think he's trying to say that we are looking for more budget clarity, which could mean the town election, or it could just mean, it may, Susan, just mean getting support from the select board for the override proposal that's currently out there, which hasn't even been supported by the select board just yet. And so the no override budget in front of you is sort of like, we're kind of waiting to see if we're going to get broad support. And by the way, even in a no override scenario, this position remains funded. And even if we were to look at making some change around it, I believe there's some statutory requirements for the number for having a full-time position assigned to this work. So I think that what they're maybe looking at is, some of the emergency management stuff that Bill was assigned to do. And it gets, I think, gets appointed annually as part of the annual appointments by the select board. And maybe memorializing some of that in the job description, and seeing if there's any way we can look at basically every position in the town and determine whether we can be more efficient with it. It's not a matter of things are absolutely going to change here. I think we're taking a moment to pause, which I think is smart to do after you have a 20-year stint with one employee, to pause and to step back and to look at what is this job doing, and to I think Bill is going to be very difficult to replace, and looking for a person to immediately swing in and take his place, I think, is almost an impossible ask. I think we're trying to take stock of everything Bill was up to, make sure we know how to fulfill those services. Can one person do that? Are we going to be able to find somebody with the same background, or will they have a slightly different background, a more social service background, or a different oriented background? I think this is something that gets approached differently in different communities. And so we're just trying to take a step back and sort of take stock. And as for getting Bill to write a job description, I think part of that is like, look, we only get him for a few hours a week, so we're putting him on the most important stuff while he's working for the town. And so I don't think that the door is closed. I hope Bill knows that we absolutely would like his feedback on how this is going to work going forward. At least, Bill, you could trust my word on that I would like your feedback on how this should work going forward.
I'm here to help any way you ask.
But
Okay.
I both understand the question here. I think it is a totally good question and appropriate to raise at this meeting. But I also think that I don't think necessarily that Chaz was trying to spook everyone. I think he was I think he just wanted to buy himself some time as town administrator to look at the role, rather than saying giving you a definitive answer one way or the other about what's going to happen here. So hopefully that adds some color.
That's helpful. My big concern was that it sounded as though whether or not that the decision itself would be put on hold until May. That what you're talking about, all of these considerations that you were bringing up,
Right.
that you said need to be done, won't actually get started until after the town election. And then we have to have this, if we do decide to have a successor in this position, we then first have to start the whole job search, which would add additional months to it. So the question is, I wonder if the select board could make a decision as to whether or not at least a certain number of hours will be needed for a position comparable to what Bill has with the title, and therefore we know whether or not, independent of how many hours it would be, that we need someone, and we could at least get a job description and get some of the work done prior to May. The other thing, and that was a question I had before, what are the legal requirements that the town is obligated, particularly under, I believe it's the Massachusetts law, and do we risk funding for our veterans, particularly matching funding, if we don't have someone with that title on staff, independent of how many hours that person is working? Is this something that we should be asking town council to be researching, or is this something that we already know?
So
I
I,
can answer
I
that
imagine
question.
Bill can answer that, but I just want to throw out there very quickly, and I'll throw it to you, Bill. I just wanted to add very quickly, Susan, that I think it would be a great follow-up to this meeting to respond to Chaz's email and ask him to be more specific if he really means holding out until after the override. Because truthfully, I don't know where his head is at on this. I'm just giving you the perspective from being in the room and hearing the conversations. But yeah, please go ahead, Bill, if you have the answer to that other question.
Yeah, Mass General Law requires each community to either have a veterans agent or be part of a group that has a veterans agent. I am state accredited probably for the next 2 years. I think my accreditation runs out. So in the interim, one of the reasons I'm stepping in is I can sign the 115 and you'll get the reimbursements. You do need to replace me because there is a requirement to replace me at some point. And, the new veteran service officer will get accredited and he'll be able to sign for the. So it should be go through right now. So
Right. So how does a person get the state accreditation?
when we hire a new person, and assuming I'm around, I'll try to do some hands-on and have and turtle with them for a while. But we'll contact the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services, and they will set up a training for him. Normally, the training is done and the accreditation is done at the annual Veterans Conference in the summer, but in the fall, I should say. In this case, they'll bring him into their office in Washington Street in Boston, and they'll do the training there and get him accredited.
And so what if there's a period of time when we don't have anyone with that accreditation doing this work? What happened? What risk is the town taking?
I think short term, the state's not going to jump all over you. I think if you go, months or a year without a veteran service officer, then you could lose your reimbursements under Mass General Law, which it goes straight to the cherry sheet, but it adds up. You're still required to do the benefits. If I were not there, Claudia could still fill out the forms correctly and manage that very nicely. She's very good at what she does. Lincoln would have to sign off on it because he's the town treasurer, and that would cover it for a while too. So there is a
Okay,
plan.
thank you. Okay, Neil, you had your hand up. You're muted.
You covered much of what I was going to say, but let me say this. So part of this is a budget decision that's dependent upon the override. The rest of it is an executive action, right? And I don't see this as, oh, let's see where the override goes. I see the hitting of the pause button, because writing up of a job description, right? That's not a budget issue. That's not dependent upon the override. A hiring decision might be. The notion that we can fill a position before the beginning of the fiscal year, surely before we know the results of the override vote, right? That's impossible. So what are we waiting for? Because if the override passes, or if it doesn't, and the decision is made to fund a full position anyway, we've just hit the pause for months. If Bill was still here, we wouldn't be hitting full time, we wouldn't be hitting the pause at all. This is not an accounting, bookkeeping, budgeting exercise. These are like real people with real needs.
Mhm.
So
Thank you, Neil.
if I can just respond to that, Susan, I would just say,
Sure.
I understand why it does feel like there's no fiscal impact to this because we're keeping the position on the books regardless. But I would say that not all budget decisions have been made yet. Number one, right? The budget has still months to go. And two, I absolutely do think that the non-passage of an override would be a strong signal to all town departments that we have to start reconsidering all job descriptions and how much everybody is taking on and whether we can shift things around anywhere. I think that the situation is dire enough where we're talking about potentially 20 FTEs next year if the override fails this year being reduced, right? That puts a new found pressure on town departments to, take some focus off their service provision and focus on efficiency, right? And so I do think that there's a strong indicator in the override vote of whether certain things need to be done and how they need to be done, right? So I understand where it doesn't feel like there's a financial part, but up here on the sixth floor, the realities are quite grim, and we're struggling with very difficult decisions, and tweaking a job description here or there, after we find out that the town is really unable to support certain costs is absolutely on the table, right? So that's just my realist's response to whether or not this is just pause or if there's financial implications to a hiring decision. We're actually doing this with all positions across the town. We have a new process called the Position Review Committee. Every position that is asked to be rehired by a department goes through a committee review process to determine, is this position, number one, vital, and number two, could it be done in a different way? It's not a focus on any one position, and it is not an intent to disenfranchise veterans. Absolutely not. It's just an attempt to, the goal here is to be pragmatic and it's absolutely not being done for no reason whatsoever.
Charlie, can you clarify what you just said about the committee or whatever to look at these positions? You're not talking about current positions being reviewed, right? You're just talking about
We are. Yeah. So Melissa and the HR director over the summer or over last fiscal year, this current fiscal year, I guess, started a new process before the select board approves an authorization to hire a position, any position in town that comes vacant, that and where they review those positions and discuss with the department head whether or not that is a critical rehire or if we need to consider whether to hold it open in the face of a potential no override where we're cutting 20 to 40 FTEs, right? Should we hire this position given we potentially may need to make some cuts? Now,
Well,
I will say that this position hasn't even gotten to that step in the process yet. But yes, that's been discussed at select board and advisory too.
Yeah, I get that part. I'm asking whether current employees are undergoing that same.
No, it's vacant positions only.
All right,
I
that's
see.
what I was wondering. Thank you.
Okay. Let's get to some of the other questions. Fran, you're next.
Thank you. So I second everything that Neil said. I think we have a responsibility to our veterans, and it's this position and what Bill does is not insignificant. And with all the things that Brookline does, it's so important. That's number one. Number two is I'm getting nervous that this whole wait 6 months and then we'll have a job description is sort of the way the town is beginning to operate. I look at the case of the director of the Council on Aging, where it took 6 months after Kaz was notified that Ruth Ann was leaving, before he decided to write up and post the job. And as a result, the new person had little, if any, overlap with the old person, and all that institutional knowledge, which Bill also has, is lost. And so I would hope that this isn't going to be the way our town and HR operate, because, we do lose significant value when they don't have overlap, and when these jobs are just like dangling in the wind, and there's an inspection in one thought that, we were, Chaz said to us, oh, we'll post the job and we'll get a new person right away. Well, it took 4 months. So, the job market is difficult. Brookline is mixed in the level of being an attractive place to work. And so I think this needs to be done and not put off, and not become a standard operating procedure where just ignore it for 6 months and then post the job. And, that's my concern. That's my second concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Alec?
Thank you, Susan. I had a couple questions and a couple comments, so I'll try to move through quickly. I do want to say I'm very much in agreement with the comments we've already heard from the other members of the committee, as well as Neil Gordon. Certainly writing the report on this committee last year and talking with Bill and hearing more about his experience, it's hard not to notice the really massive and really valuable return on investment this department yields the town for relatively, insignificant investment. I mean, a 2 FTE department that services 1,200 people a year, has a 100% benefit acceptance rate. I think we've seen remarkable success from a small department. And I just want to throw a word of caution into, as we consider some of these tough budget trade-off decisions, which we have to do. And I appreciate the work that Charlie and Chaz and everyone on the sixth floor is doing there, in not confusing success with a lack of a need for continuing investment. It's an amazing thing that we've essentially eliminated veteran suicide in Brookline, but that didn't happen by mistake. It was the result of hard work and really talented employees who stayed with the town for decades, and really invested a significant portion of their time and talents into that work. So thinking that, the problem is solved and we can now potentially taper investment, I worry about that kind of thinking for services such as this. I think sustaining the investment is how you keep those good gains and those good outcomes. And I definitely think, as we've heard tonight, there's strong support, certainly on the advisory committee, for maintaining that investment. And it sounds like a legal requirement that in many respects we do continue that investment. To Fran's point, I agree as well, about concerns from our perspective as wanting to be a good employer. I think, Bill, and thank you so much. I can't, emphasize how much I want to thank Bill for his many years of service to Brookline, and how well we wish you in retirement, or hopefully soon actual retirement. But this is the success story we ought to be trying to emulate, right? We've attracted a really exceptional person to a really key position, and they've stayed with us for 21 years, the better part of a career, and really made a significant impact in the community. I think part of being a good employer is celebrating and valuing that kind of work. And I don't think it's fair of us now, as Bill's seeking to retire, that we keep him on the hook in some indefinite manner. So I certainly appreciate the need to consider where we can find operating efficiencies, where we can find flexibility in the budgeting process. But it's also important that we do right by our employees, particularly those who we've had a really valued relationship with for so long. So I hope the select board will think about making a decision on this position earlier than some others, particularly given how much it returns to the town, how important it is for a really underserved, in many respects, community within our country. And as we've heard, the job is only getting harder. The federal government is actively impeding the good work that our Veteran Services Department is trying to do. So, more important now than ever that we I think maintain this commitment to our veteran community, and and do the right thing for our employees. So I'll try and end my comments there. I did want to ask, maybe this is for Charlie. You mentioned the position review committee. Do you happen to know who sits on that committee?
Yeah, so that is Melissa Goff, Deputy Town Administrator, Ann Braga, HR Director, and sometimes they will pull in another department head for those meetings. But it's Tuesdays, and they receive any authorization to hire that's supposed to go before the select board to hire for a vacant position.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then Bill, I wanted to ask you, follow up. You may remember last year we asked about this as well. The Veterans Tax Work-Off Program. I know now you're in semi-retirement. This is probably not very high on your list of priorities. I did just want to ask, in the last year, have there been any conversations between the department and the select board or Chaz in terms of implementing that program or moving the program forward at all?
I had a conversation with the senior center because they're the one that manages a similar program. And I've had two people in the last 7, 8 months express interest, and unfortunately, both those people, because of health issues, weren't really able to participate in the program. And I haven't really pushed as much as maybe I could, but I had other things.
I looked up some information on the assessor's page. It's not listed. I assume that's because the select board never went forward and made the decisions about how many positions would be available in this. So I think that it's a question of that would be the first step, I assume, in any process. But it looks as though nothing has actually been implemented at this point.
I'm not
even
sure,
if no
actually,
one is.
Susan. I think I'm seeing it on the tax assistance and deferral programs. No, just the senior program.
I took a look at that this afternoon. I didn't see, there are other veteran programs, but the work off program is not listed. There
You're
are
right.
other tax.
It is. You're right. It's
relief.
only the. I'm sorry. You're correct. It's only the senior tax work off.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So this
but-
is a program that I think we just thought would start with 1 or 2 positions, but in order to start, it needs to be on the select board's agenda, and a specific vote has to be taken to create those positions. So, David Mark, you have your hand.
Can I just ask one quick follow-up?
Oh, sure. Go right ahead. Sorry.
And so I did just check the deferral page as well. It's not listed there, and my understanding is the same as yours, Susan, in terms of how implementation was imagined to go. I did want to ask Bill, since you did mention the 2 who applied, has the department done any advertising or publicity around the tax work-off program?
It wasn't in the original flyer I sent out. And I'm remiss on that. I have done outreach at the senior center and at the veterans post and at the VA too, but that's really not as applicable. And we have mentioned that as one of our services, the senior work tax work.
Right. Okay. Thanks so much. And thank you again for your 2 decades of service to the town. Really, can't emphasize how important that is. And we appreciate it.
Okay. Charlie, is that a 2-finger comment about
I just wanted to throw out there that I do think this program is operational in the sense that this, the coordinator at the Council on Aging is sort of waiting for folks who are interested to take part in it. And we were thinking of Bill, we were working together to look for a potential person, right? So I don't know that there's an obstacle in the way of anyone applying and getting one of those positions. I will circle back with the assessor though, Alec and Susan.
I think what we need is to have something on the website.
Yes.
And in the 1-page document he produces that people can download, listing all of the various types of programs that people can apply for. And particularly the real difference between that and the current senior center work-off program is that it's age qualified, and this would not be. So it needs to be clearly stated that you don't have to be a senior if you are a veteran in order to provide for it. And it needs to be stated on the town website someplace.
And just also on that note, Susan, completely agreed with your suggestions there and appreciate you making them. I think one of the really inventive parts of the senior tax work-off program has been finding work slots throughout the town departments that match up with a variety of different experiential backgrounds and physical mobility limitations. So, my hope is certainly that as we've kind of adapted the senior program to the specific needs and backgrounds of seniors, as we get this veterans program up and running, we can do the same thing for this community, which I know faces unique challenges and has also, I think, exciting and potentially very valuable experiential backgrounds for the town. So I'm very eager to see this program go forward through implementation.
Okay. Fran.
So I just had another question for Charlie on this vacancy review committee. You said HR and Melissa are the major members and occasionally a department head. It seems to me that if one is considering filling a vacancy, that it's not just money. It's the value to the town, the service to the town, and what that person provides. And I would hope that the department requesting the hire is given due evaluation, due justice to explain why they need that position and what would be lost if that position is not filled. Because now we're talking about, oh, the override, but for, it's not always the override. And there are services that are important for different segments of our population.
So
And
just to clarify, this
evaluation.
just to clarify, this is associated with the override. This was done as part of recognizing that we were facing a significant deficit.
Okay.
So this committee didn't exist before then, and it's strictly in order to identify potential positions that we should hold open so that we don't need to lay those people off in the event that we decide to reduce those positions. And so, to be clear, almost every position has gone through the position review committee that the select board has approved of the past several months. The only ones that were not are positions that have been included in the no override reductions proposal. So, for example, a position in planning wasn't approved by the PRC, and those meetings are exactly as you described, Fran, a venue for Melissa Goff and Ann Braga to ask questions about whether this position, how long that they've lived without this position, could they continue? Should we consider holding this position open, and hopefully get some agreement from the department head. And for example, we have had positions that the review committee has said, hey, we really think you ought not to seek to fill these because these positions may get reduced. Right. And the department head has said we'd like to go ahead anyway. And the position review committee has approved.
Charlie,
those.
could I just ask you a question? Are these meetings public? Are they shown on
they're internal meetings? These are internal meetings before the ATH goes before the select board, which would be the public hearing. Where
so the other point I wanted to make is that I don't think they have a comparable situation where an entire department is just two people. And so it's not simply a question of efficiency, but it's a question of the town's values.
Right.
Whether or not we
value. To be clear, this position hasn't gone before the position review committee. It's actually, it's still before that step. The reason I brought up the PRC was to just point out that this is a type of review that is happening to all positions before they get rehired.
Right, but we don't have any other departments that are just two people in size.
Understood. I take your point.
Okay. All right. I want to make certain we have enough time to take some votes. So I think.
Susan, you had called on me like 10 minutes ago. Can I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yellow hand wasn't up.
It was up and you called on me. Fortunately, Alec said most of what I wanted to say, and so I won't repeat it. And Fran's concerns are also mine as well. Given the sheer number of people that go through this office every year, and people who have nowhere else to turn, they don't know how to navigate the process on their own. It just seems inconceivable and absolutely unacceptable that the job would not have been posted by now, and we would not have tried to fill this. This is just absolutely inexcusable. And I would ask the subcommittee if they would be open to having the chair write a resolution strongly urging the town administrator to post the position immediately. Because it's just, you cannot just, I mean, think of this. Most of what's going on now is being done by a clerk. What happens if she starts to burn out? What if she decides to leave because she has too much on her plate? Then there's nobody left with any kind of institutional memory or any kind of expertise in whatsoever. We can't have that, you know, as a possibility. We have to have someone who has the training and who has the skills to maneuver through the federal bureaucracy and the VA. We cannot just risk burning out somebody who we're putting all this stuff on, which is not in her job description. It's just absolutely, you know, it's really risky to do that. I think it's inexcusable that they don't post this immediately, and to just to let it go and to blame the override is I think, acceptable excuse either, because what's getting our finances in so much trouble are the healthcare costs and the pensions and the OPEBs. And that's what the problem is. It's not a two-person department that's, needing an override. We've got to get the healthcare costs under control. And we've got to get the unions to agree to take a little bit more in paying that off, more like most other communities in the state. That's where our focus should be, because that's what's killing us. And to say that, we're going to hold off posting an expertise position, which is needed by so many people. What was it, Alex, at $1,200 a year? Who don't know how to maneuver through the system. And we need somebody there who can help them. And the VFW is not going to be a sufficient, substitute. It's not unfair to ask them to try and do that. We need somebody in place now. And it's unfair to ask Bill, even though he's probably very happy, doing it from home. It's unfair to ask him to keep doing it after he's decided to retire. That's not fair. So I would ask that we have some kind of resolution.
Okay. I will allow that to go forward when we reach that point. I would just like to add as a message to the sixth floor that I think it's extraordinarily inefficient to delay getting a job description done and starting to look for this essential position, because we're going to lose out on the ability to tap into the information and knowledge base that Bill offers. And I think that trying to rush it through next June will lead to perhaps really bad, inefficient results. But more important than that, I think it goes to an expression of the values of this town. If we allow this to slide and don't take the appropriate action now that's needed, we're sending a message to every veteran in Brookline that we don't value their service. Whatever we say on the holidays that we have celebrations of, this is the nitty-gritty of how you express the value that the people have earned through their being veterans. And I think it's critical that we don't delay and keep putting it off, because I don't think that it's who we are as a town. We have only 10 minutes before the advisory committee is going to be meeting. And can we start taking some votes now? Are we ready for that? Or does
I'd be
have
happy
an
to offer
additional-
a motion to vote on the proposed budget and the FY27 financial plan. I'll also just say, though, I agree with David Mark. I think a resolution or letter of some kind would be germane for this subcommittee to think about. And I'd be happy to second his motion if he has one.
Yeah. Why don't we start first with the resolution?
Well, who would Susan, do you want to do it, or should Alex, who's writing up the report? I have no.
Well, what I'd like to do is to have a vote of our subcommittee to authorize, say, Alex to draft the resolution, but that it should contain our support, and then we should specify what we think should be done at this time without delaying the process.
Then I'll move to request that the chair of the subcommittee authorize a resolution from the subcommittee expressing our extreme disapproval with the lack of posting of Bill's job description and the lack of urgency in hiring a replacement, and our sincere request that the sixth floor institute that immediately.
Okay, you're asking,
Or words to that effect.
why can't we simply say that our subcommittee authorizes or recommends?
Whatever. Whatever.
Okay,
Recommends
I think
for
everybody
what,
understands.
immediate posting for Bill's replacement or to fill this position?
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Can someone just say it again? Or Alec, did you write it down? Because I haven't been writing.
So my capturing of the big kind of three bucket points would be, one is dismay or disapproval of keeping the position open at length. Two is reiterating the importance of the position, its value to the veteran community of Brookline, its value, in signaling the budget values of Brookline, to your earlier point, Susan,
And to
and its
people who have
return on
nowhere else to
investment.
turn.
And then the third piece being we would request that the job description and job posting for this position be posted expediently.
Yes, that sounds good.
Or expeditiously. That might be.
Okay.
Or both.
All right, we can take a vote on that now. Those in favor, I will call this as a roll call vote. David Mark,
Yes.
Donnell,
Yes.
okay, Fran,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Alec,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes, so it's unanimous.
So Susan, I will draft a resolution to that effect and send.
Okay,
to
why
you
don't you
for
send it to
approval.
me, and then we can perhaps, refine it,
Circulate
and
it.
then, because I know you're also going to be sending me a copy of the report, so we could be
Yes.
doing both at the same time. Okay, so let me get officially the correct number, which I wrote down. Okay. So the next item we have to vote on is the Human Services Subcommittee recommends favorable action on the proposed base budget for the Veteran Services Department of $296,958. Again, I'm going to take a roll call. David Mark,
Yes.
Alec,
Yes.
Fran,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
and Donnell,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So also unanimous. Next Tuesday is when the full AC will be taking up discussion of this budget. And if anyone wants any additional information from the sixth floor, I will be trying to get some additional information. I assume if Alec, in the course of writing his report, has some additional questions for Chaz, that can be sent, and also for Bill also. So to make certain that everything in the report anticipates the kinds of questions that the advisory committee will be asking us. Is there anything else that people would like us to cover at this point? No? Okay. I think we were all somewhat thrown for a loop when we learned last week about Bill's retiring. But I think that we've made a lot of progress in trying to clarify the situation. And I think that
It's more horrific than we thought, basically. Is the
well, I think it's helpful at least that we can call attention to what the actual situation is. So any clarification that we can get from the sixth floor is extraordinarily helpful. And we do understand the pressures that you are all operating under. But this seems to be a small area that should be carved out as being essential to for a variety of reasons. And I think this is the time to make it clear that this is what hopefully the full advisory committee will agree to, because I think that that is better than waiting months before we make any kind of firm decision. And this will, if assuming this goes through, hopefully the select board can take action if that's needed to make certain that this gets underway and is not unduly delayed.
May I suggest, Susan, that after the resolution is written and not just send it to Chaz, but also send it to the select board so they're aware.
Yes. Yes, and as an addendum, that is what the resolution that we voted on should have been included, because I think that's the most effective way of making certain that the decision makers, the executive decision makers, are aware of our recommendation.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for everything. All these years, you're leaving a huge hole. You already know that, but we're really dismayed that you're going to be happy in retirement. We wish you were staying another 10 years.
I'm looking for retirement. I need it really quickly. Whoever fills my position, it's important because that 115, it doesn't affect a ton of people, but it affects the most vulnerable people in our community and it keeps them in their homes. Yeah. The stuff we do with the medical care, it's been life-changing for a lot of, especially my more senior veterans, just get that health care that they needed, that maybe they weren't getting on the outside because of insurances suck. For the stuff we do with the claims, and this year we did really good. 10% claims like $176 a month. 100% is over 4,000. And Life's a Box of Chocolates. I don't pick and choose my claims wherever it walks in, but this year we got 3 people 100%. That's over $50,000 for just those 3 veterans. That's not the other veterans. That's money in the community. That's money that we're generating, that they're spending in the community. That's paying the rent. That's shopping in the stores. That's money going back to Brookline. And it's not just the money that I generated this year. Maybe I generated 300,000 or 400,000 this year in VA claims, but that's regenerative. Every year, these people, as long as they live in Brookline, they're getting a check. So it brings money into the community. So there are benefits to the Veteran Service Officer. I strongly implore you to continue funding the Veteran Service Office at the level you've been doing.
Thank you
so much for all your support for the last 20 years. It's really appreciated.
And the one thing also we want to underscore is that when you look back on your career, just think of how many lives that you've had such a positive impact on, and who knows how much of a difference you've made. And, so in addition to everything else you've accomplished, these are things that I think someday when you look back on this, I think you should feel so happy that you've been able to do all of the good things that you've done.
I'll turn that around. I've been looking back at it, and I'm so grateful for the people that I've met and the people whose lives, I not only I touched, but they've touched my lives. I think I've got as much or more out of it than any of my veterans. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate since I've had you. So thank you very much, guys.
Thanks.
Okay.
7 o'clock now, Susan.
Okay. Well,
right on time.
You will be there at the full AC meeting, right,
you
Bill?
Want me there? I'll be there. Yep.
Yes. And
I'll see you on the other side.
Okay, so yes.
Thursday night at the VFW, Neil, I'm making spaghetti and full Italian dinner. Just keep this in mind. Okay.
All right.
Okay,
night,
so
everyone.
thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, so at this moment, Harry Friedman's getting very nervous.
Okay, bye.